Hi and welcome to a short product review. Now the product I'm going to be reviewing, you can see on screen, is made by a company called Unto the Breach Hobbies, and it's basically a paint stripper. Now normally when we go to strip paint we will pick up isopropyl alcohol, we might pick up Biostrip 20, Dettol, Simple Green, one of these chemicals that's out and about, commercially available. We'll pick it up. They generally smell horrible. You need to often wear nitrile gloves, and you might not necessarily want to put it down the sink. This product is designed specifically for stripping paint off of miniatures. It can go down the sink. You rinse it off with cold water. You don't need to wear gloves. So it seems to have everything going for it. It also has some really positive reviews from people in the community who have been in the hobby for years. This bottle is a 500ml bottle, so it's fairly sizable. It cost $12.99 with about £3 worth of postage. It came very quickly. I think I ordered it one evening and it arrived a couple of days later. It comes like this, and you also get a set of instructions which are actually on sticky paper. And the process of stripping a miniature is really simple. You get a pot, you put your model in it, you pour your Paint Blitzer on the top, you give it half an hour, you run it under cold water, scrub it with a toothbrush or a stiff brush, and at the end of it you should have a clean miniature. You can repeat it if you don't. To my mind, this seems really positive. It almost seems too good to be true. However, like I say, I've heard really good reviews. So what I'm going to do in this product review isn't just talk about it. I actually have a miniature off to one side, which is a resin model. So I'm going to pour this on, and I'll be able to show you the whole process. Here is my test miniature. Now, this is really going to put the Paint Blitzer through its paces because it's actually been painted twice. It received a coat of Retributor armour, followed by a hand paint job. It's then been re-undercoated black from a can again, and then had some airbrush layers on. Now, the reason I'm stripping it is because the person I'm doing this for wants a really nice bright red finish, and this isn't bright and red. So I'm now going to pour the Paint Blitzer on. I've given it a good shake already, but just give it another one. And it's basically the consistency of PVA glue. So literally I'm going to pour this over. It's almost like corn flour mixed with water. So make sure everything's got a covering. And already I can see the red is coming off. If you look. So that is promising already. Get that on my finger. So I do have my trusty toothbrush. So I'm going to make sure everything's got a coat of this. And already you can see the paint is coming off of the base, and I've hardly touched it. Really impressed with this so far. So I think that is pretty much done. We'll just do the end of the gun. So the next job is to basically leave this be for a good half an hour. I'm quite impressed with that, even though I've covered myself in paint. It doesn't look like it's actually going to fall off the model. If you're using something like isopropyl, I'd have to fill this up completely. And in fact, I've used very little. I've used probably half an inch, so it's gone to there. Sorry, the light is very bright. But it's gone to about there, which is, I think, really quite good. I'm going to stop the video now. I'm going to go and wash my hands, but I'll come back in about half an hour, and then I'll take you to the sink to rinse this off. So here we go. The miniature's been left in here for just over half an hour, and it looks like the paint is slowly but surely dissolving, basically. So what I'm going to do is I'm get this out, and I'm going to start. The first step is to scrub it just with a brush, and then you need to run some cold water, and you basically scrub and rinse the rest off. So I'm going to get on and do that. So taking it out, you can see that already it's quite a bit has come out. So put the pot to one side and go from there. That's revealing the gold, that initial gold undercoat really quickly. So I think that's a pretty good example of how well this is going. What I'm going to do is I'm going to finish stripping this off, and then I'll take it back to the desk and I'll show you how it is on a bit better kit. So I've just come back from the sink. What I've done is I rinsed it all off with some cold water, and then I've just used a bit of blue roll to dry up the majority of the water that's on the model. And you'll see actually it's not made too bad a job. There's a few odd patches of paint that haven't completely come off yet. What I do think I needed to do was to use a slightly stiffer toothbrush. It's also been quite awkward to get into all the nooks and crannies because this is such a complicated model and there was quite a lot of paint on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this a second punt with the Paint Blitzer. Now, one thing that I am going to point out that is absolutely fantastic is the green stuffing that had to be done on the leg is still there. It's not come out. One of the issues that I know people have found with quite a lot of miniatures when they've stripped them is any green stuffing and filling and glue has just dissolved. That's not happened with this. Very impressed. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a second run completely off camera, and then I'll bring it back and I'll show you what I'm like after that. Here's the Dreadnought after a second run with Paint Blitzer, and you'll see it's actually pretty clean. I used a small dry brush and a cocktail stick to get in some of the little nooks and crannies. Now, it's not perfect. Because this model was assembled and these bits down here you just can't get into. It's the same goes for some of the bits on the back. The back is worse because it's a lot more detailed. I just haven't managed to get all of the paint out. Now, one thing I'm going to say is this model went in with a piece of plastic model I wanted to strip for about an hour and a half. Now, if you've ever tried to strip or you've put chemicals with resin before, you know what I'm about to say. The surface of this model has started to break down. It's slightly tacky to touch, and in fact, you almost feel that you could ram your fingernail into it. That's because resin is a lot more fragile than most plastics and such like. So what I would say is, although Paint Blitzer tells you can put a miniature in it for up to 2 hours, don't. Because it will break down the resin after time. After 30 minutes, the miniature was absolutely fine. There was no problems with it at all. And as you saw, the paint has started to come off. What I should have done was to actually not leave it in quite as long. Just do another half an hour and do it in half an hour stints. And if you're stripping a resin miniature, I certainly would recommend that. I'd also recommend that you get a fairly stiff toothbrush for cleaning it off, because the toothbrushes that I had were slightly too soft. Just something slightly different. Nothing that is like a wire brush, because that would scratch the model regardless. But certainly something that's fairly stiff. And like I say, small dry brush and a cocktail stick helped masses. Now, I did poke another piece of miniature in that I wanted to clean, and that was this plastic walkway. Now, again, this was in for about an hour and a half. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not soft. There's no problems. It's purely resin I wouldn't leave in for that length of time with Paint Blitzer. And as you'll see, this is cleaned up quite nicely. There's a little bit of staining, but you'd expect that because Citadel Black or Citadel sprays, I should say, are all etching paints, so they actually etch into the plastic. So if it was completely grey, I'd be really shocked. So in summary, Paint Blitzer is fantastic. I'm really, really happy that I bought a bottle. It's definitely going to go into the cupboard to be kept with all my other things, various pots and potions that I use for painting. What I would say is, if I was stripping a resin miniature, as I said, I'd only do it in half-an-hour stints. But Paint Blitzer will definitely mean that if I do a test model and I'm not happy with it, I know that in less than an hour, I can strip that back to bare plastic and I can just rumble and do another test. Fantastic product. Like I say, I bought it. I haven't been endorsed for this. It isn't a freebie or anything like that. But I would definitely say that this product is one of those things that, especially if you live in the UK where it's manufactured, it's one of those things I think it is going to add into the modeller's toolkit for a lot of people. I hope you found this review useful. If you did, click like, leave us any comments below. I'm happy to receive comments on the quality of the video. I've used a different setup following people's feedback from my Titan videos. Please have a check out of those as well, and subscribe to the channel or find me on Twitter or Instagram.